how do I make our users as much money and as viral as humanly possible? I want to build the best end user consumer product here, right? I think code generation is a consumer social product, right? And so I'm going to build it like that, right? I'm not going to try to appeal to technical people.
Oh yeah, episode 68. Next one is nice.
Next one's a good episode.
Nice. And well, it could be. I mean, let's not write checks we can't cash, Josh.
True. Especially when hacks happen minutes before shows. Not our hacks, but
the joys of being on the West Coast is that I woke up after, so I missed the whole SEC drops Coinbase investigation.
Right, those 2 hours of things are great. Yeah.
I was ignorant of them. Absolutely ignorant of them, which quite honestly I prefer for something like that, though. I don't know. Mark Safe from the ByBit hack. That's got to be Lazarus or something. To be able to get these hacks on multi-sigs and hardware wallets are pretty targeted.
Crazy. It also they must have. I haven't looked too closely into it, but it must have taken some serious infiltration over some amount of time to actually pull that off. It's not just they didn't find some backdoor into something.
Yeah, there's been a few hacks like this that I think show they have to actually get physical, or they have to get access to specific computers or devices, and then get malware into your. I don't know. The whole thing's terrifying. I feel like I hold on barely by a thread with this as not a deeply technical human being, and then I go how should I treat this thing? Should I treat this ledger as my unborn child, or do I take it on trips with me so I can actually sign and do things?
One for each.
One for each is the answer.
Yeah.
I am pretty rich in ledgers. We got security stuff in the goodie bag over here. Whatever. That's not what we're here to talk about. They can go take care of the infrastructure. It doesn't look like people are too freaked out. I saw the live stream of the CEO from ByBit. My friend's not getting their withdrawals out, so they're feeling a little awkward about it. But fingers crossed everything's okay. And we're back with another. I mean, other stuff happened this week, and yet maybe it's just wiped from the timeline today. But we're gonna get into it. Is there anything else you got to say before we? I mean, I'll let you introduce today's guest, but Peace.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Peace animated his puppet, which is a nice addition.
I'm incredibly stoked about this.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So I'm here to chat.
Peace is here to chat, officially chatting.
Yeah. I was sitting here kind of disappointed that it was sitting there, not just hopping up and down when you talked, and then it started.
No. So. Yeah. I'm. It's actually more representative of what's going on now, because I am sitting here.
Is this camera looking at your mouth and animating based on that, or is it just?
No, it's animated based on decibel levels. So I just have different frames triggered at different thresholds.
Okay, can you show us what a high decibel level reaction would be?
Yeah.
No, let's go very Manilow. Soft, very Manilow.
Oh, that was a request?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to see your range.
Hello.
Yeah, both of those are creepy. I love them.
Audio.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, hopefully we'll hang out somewhere between those two for most of the show. All right, let's get Brexton up here. Brexton, what's up, man?
Hello.
See, we told you we'd just say stupid shit until you got on.
We did. We delivered.
You did warn me.
We did warn you. Yeah, man. Pumped to have you on. So I guess you and me connected for the first time earlier this week, and I think vibed on a lot of our perspectives on tokens. I think talked a bit about your product, and it's really cool. You also had a big announcement this week that you're integrating Onchain kit into what you're building. So I think a lot of fun stuff we can get into here. So maybe to kick it off, you just want to do a quick intro and kind of background on what Ohara is.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? My name's Brexton. I'm the co-founder of Ohara. Ohara is a full stack app generation platform, and specifically actually for crypto. I'm going to say, here's why I kind of preface that, which is I think there's a lot of code generation tools out in the wild. But I think specifically we take very strong opinions that number one, in a Cambrian explosion of software, I think 99% of software being generated in the future will be made by non-technical people. I also think that like in that world, software is going to be a new form of content, right? And so I think like the majority of software won't be hardcore full stack apps, just because I think like non-technical people kind of think way more differently than technical people, right? Like kind of free from any constraints of like what software should be. And so, for example, we take very strong opinions that software generation should also be a consumer social product. And kind of the reasons why I think we're servicing crypto specifically, it's kind of like again, like a hot take, but I'm very unconvinced that in a future where anyone can generate software, that people will monetize software off of like Stripe integrations and subscriptions, right? And I know there's a lot of stuff happening with meme coins and retail and the casino world that's happening, but I think crypto is at its best a very programmatic way to experiment constantly with value capture. And as we move to a world where software gets commoditized, I think people need to find out new ways how to monetize software. And I think we're very strongly opinionated that it should start off. I think our first approach is that we should make it easier for people to generate crypto native apps, right? Because if you've jumped down the dev tool rabbit hole of crypto, it is, I have the advantage of being able to build in 2025 where it's super easy relative to before, and it is still hard. It is still unclear what dev tools in crypto do, right? And so anyways, that's my brief spiel there.
Yeah, nice. So kind of like the core of the product today is you open it, you see both kind of like a leaderboard of the most popular products that have been generated, and also a prompt box where you can jump in and generate anything, right?
Yes.
So I guess if we kind of compare, like Ohara to like Replit or any of these kind of more traditional code generation products, like the two core differences are you're kind of leaning into the social side of it, so you can, you kind of get social trends, which you can see on the product here, and then also you're like focus on crypto native product building.
Yes, but we're gonna say yes. Also, we take Ohara is completely free, so that we don't. I think like when we say that like software is gonna be a new form of content, I think we should put our money where our mouth is. And I think we should follow the trend of like what YouTube did with video, which is I think that the price of intelligence is going to go down to zero, and you see the price of AI models already decreasing and rapidly compress. I think the price of software is going to rapidly compress. And so then like every AI product right now, even outside of code gen, charges on creation, right? So you like have a limited amount of generations and you need to pay a subscription. But I think that's going to compress in 6 and 12 months, right? And so that means the onus is on us to basically figure out how to monetize in a much more creative way. How do we not charge on creation? And also like my goal as a platform is like, how do I make our users as much money and as viral as humanly possible, right? And so then like there's a lot of implications to this. So we pay for our users' APIs. Like that is like a very big difference between us, right? Like we're taking it even further. Like if I'm servicing non-technical people don't realize that they need to go out and retrieve an auth key for a database and design a database schema. They need to go pay for an open AI API key, right? So we should actually handle all of that ourselves. And so we really want to service non-technical folks.
Interesting. So you're really like, it's like the consumer social software generation play, right? It's like how do we abstract away anything that could get in the way of someone creating something within like minutes of showing up here? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so this must, I guess, we assume that you have some thoughts on what monetization looks like in era. So what are you thinking there?
Okay. We're announcing something big here in 2 weeks, so I'm trying to kind of be careful about what I say before my team kills me.
You're allowed to drop out. You're allowed to drop out.
I mean, it's such a natural safe space for alpha. It's so comfy and warm, and
for sure.
No, or even little bits of alpha, right? Not full alpha, just little bits.
For sure. I think
like I don't feel comfortable.
No. I feel comfortable. I think I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding crazy. So I think that
you should know we've said like a lot of absurd things on the show that should create a big open bubble safe space for you to come in and say whatever the fuck you want here. So
for sure. So I think the future of software monetization is all going to be around attention, right? Like I think attention is going to be the only thing that matters in a world where software is content. And I think meme coins are actually unironically the best vehicle for attention ever, but there are a lot of problems with meme coin launchpads, right? Which is like, I think number one, they currently incentivize more tokens to be launched rather than more successful tokens. And I've been very red pilled by a very specific team in the space called Whetstone or Doppler. They're like completely built on Uni v4. They've been preaching the good word to me, right? Austin Adams, Matt Zernick, I want to give them a shout out, but like,
He's been on the
and
show
then
a bunch of times. Yeah.
yeah, and then so I think like there's a lot of problems around how launchpads work that we kind of want to fix with how we actually tokenize apps. And I think there's like a lot of low hanging fruit things that basically incentivize people to constantly build and attract and continually maintain the momentum of their attention. So for example, like I think that every app creator or token creator should be subject to a like long 12-month vesting schedule, right? They should get 10% or whatever percent of the initial token supply, but they should be subject to like a pretty long vesting schedule because like you want to account for that like moonshot case, right? Like the case where the coin actually completely takes off and like the creators actually incentivized to keep on continuing developing their product, right? And so we take a very strong view there. And then of course, like there's a lot of things that like we take very strong views of. Like I think that trading fees shouldn't be passed down to any individual person, even the creator or even like the platform. I think all trading fees should be put back into the liquidity pool, right? Like I think all trading fees should be kept in a treasury, right? I think even like the price discovery process of how tokens are launched should be fixed. So again, like I'm sure you could tell, Austin Adams completely red pilled me here, but that's my way of saying I think we're taking a very strong position of like tokenizing apps. There's very specific reasons why we're doubling down on base as an ecosystem, and I think like one of the big reasons there. And this isn't like particularly any alpha, and it's not me trying to shit on any other ecosystem, but as someone who's building a very AI native company and not a crypto native company, the dev tools in the EVM ecosystem are just more mature, right? And I think like like a benefit of them being like a public company with all these people on payrolls that they're constantly shipping out like just like easier dev tools. And so it just makes it easier for us to even abstract out a ton of this stuff.
Okay, so I want to see if I'm following here because I think this is, I mean, like I would say
there's a lot that I said, so you're right.
Yeah, there's a very big prize out there. If people are like, oh, token launching is very valuable. You know,
yes.
Meme coins are one asset type. Can we get some more serious asset types here? And what does launching tokens look like? I like that. You know, we love what Austin's working on. But you know, so I guess pulling from what you said there, the idea would be that anybody who comes and builds an app here would be able to launch a token in a very sort of opinionated way by your platform to represent this app token for the application.
Yes, app tokens are exactly what we believe in.
Yeah, and then there's some sort of underlying value. Like, or do you see like there being a value flow through? Like I guess I'm interested in like where the buys and sells sort of come from on those things.
So I think there's like there's like two sides of the spectrum that you could view quote unquote app tokens, right? So one side of the spectrum is like you try to really tie in some sort of utility from like the token to the app, and like maybe the app is token gated, maybe there's like in-app mechanics with the token. I think like I tend to be I don't like that approach, I think a lot, just because I think number one, I think it implicitly sets the expectation that this app is going to deliver some dividends or like has some sort of performance, and it also limits distribution in some way, right? And there's that complete other side of the spectrum where you say, hey, literally they're only affiliated by name and description, right? And there's actually no tie in utility ever, and it's up to the market to decide whether or not this app is going to continue to, like, whether or not it's utility or entertainment based, whether this app is going to be widely distributed for a 15-minute cycle, a 6-month cycle, and like a 12-month cycle. And I actually think it's up to the app creator. Number one, as a platform, we try not to be too opinionated, but I think it's up to the app creator to decide whether or not they want to integrate tokens into their app. And second, I think it's up to the app creator to maintain that narrative and momentum, right? And even, for example, like, again, this is just my opinions, but like, if you look at the Jelly launch or like what have you, I think there were intrinsic problems of like them launching a token on a separate platform like Pump and then loosely affiliating it with like their product. But then like, again, like the way that these launch pads are designed aren't meant to like actually produce successful tokens. like for example, I would have forced a vesting schedule on the app on the token creators, right? Like I would have, because again, you know, and I think the market like decides to believe whether or not the creator is actually invested in this thing that they're building. And so, anyways, yes. So
Okay,
we
it's
very much land
basically
on the other side of the spectrum.
right. So it's you get to take the brand public around this idea. You know, there may be something more, there may be something less. The speculative
Yes.
demand in and around it is going to generate fees that will be, you know, valuable to the creator of the app, and then it's also they'll also hold a percentage in case there is long-term value here and that they get to participate in it.
So yes, we actually the app creator and the token creator, they don't get any portion of the fees. We actually feed all of the fees from Uniswap back into like a treasury into their liquidity pool. So
Okay.
it all goes back to all the token holders.
So this is like a very good sort of like, so where does like value or revenue for the launcher, like the person who's creating the game, come from? Like what's my incentive to come here?
We're gonna say because all of the fees are going into basically their treasury, the token, like the token value should be the number one incentive, and keeping the token value up should be the number one incentive for people to buy and for people to create, right? And even like
the creator behind something, I am buying
yes.
tokens to get exposure to those tokens, or
no, so you get as the person creating the app or the token, you get an automatic 10% of the supply.
Okay, so my alignment is selling tokens into the liquidity pool that's hopefully growing because of the value of speculation around my app.
Yeah, and then I'll take it even further, which is so like you're gonna be able to like remix apps pretty soon, and like there's an interesting question around like how do you avoid a Uniswap sushi swap problem, right? When someone forks your project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I created the original app and you decided to fork or remix my app, right? Then there's a question of like, hey, what happens to the token that you launched, or what happens to like my token, right? I think we're taking a very, I mean, of course, like all of this is programmatic, so we're going to experiment with it. But I think a very cool idea is that like maybe a very small nominal percentage of the token supply of like you, the person remixing, actually goes back to the treasury of like the original person who made that project, right? And so we want to make sure, like my only goal is to make sure that people's apps go as viral as possible and people can make as much money on their apps by putting in effort into these apps, right? And then, but like, I want to be unopinionated about like what the market finds valuable.
Did you consider having trading fees going to the creator? Because I feel like the idea of like software as content, like content fundamentally is largely ephemeral. Obviously some is long lasting, but a lot of it is ephemeral and can still be very valuable and viral in this like kind of short ephemeral period. But by being like vested or locked up for a year, potentially you're just launching this as this like, you know, fun experiment. So it seems like the like, you know, you as a creator having something going incredibly viral for 2 weeks actually won't capture a ton of value from that, the success of that virality in your current model.
So the creator is free to buy outside of their initial 10%, right? They can buy whatever they want. Like, and there's very, like, you can't control for that regardless, right? And so, like, number one, they can always buy. And then number two, the vesting happens every second, right? So they're still constantly getting like a percentage of the tokens. I think that like, how do I, and again, like all of these are like numbers we want to tweak because we'll never know until we like actually launch and like make this happen. But like the idea is like, I want every app creator to be as incentivized to build and continue developing their app and continuing actually like when they've built an audience, they should continue delivering for their audience, right? So there should be that constant pressure to deliver for their audience. And I guess around the trading fees, the most incentive aligned thing for everybody involved is that if you have a stake in the token should go up, right? Like in general, right? And so if like there are trading fees involved, then I can't come up with a better like purpose for the trading fees than to literally just pump it back into the liquidity pool, right? And so I think that's like, again, like this is a very opinionated view, but like I think everybody should be incentivized to just make their token go up, right? And like the token holders' token go up.
I think one of the features of Doppler is this sort of consider it linear vesting or programmatic vesting that's selling directly into the liquidity pools as like a business model.
Yeah.
Which I guess one of the opinionated directions that Doppler's gone in. Is that something you considered, or is that relevant
Yes.
to what we're talking about here? Yeah,
for sure. Like we're so red pilled on Doppler. Like I think like they're I would say uh I think like for what it's worth, I think like Doppler is like really pushing Uni v4 to its limits, right? And I think because everything's so early, everyone's unsure about what the overall design space for what Doppler is building is going to be, including how programmatic vesting works, including how like price discovery works. And so that is something that like I bother them every day about, right? Especially like again, like the goal with Ohara is like pretty simple from like a price discovery perspective, which is like we want it to look a lot like the IPO markets, right? The cooler your app is, it should IPO at a higher price, right? Like that is like pretty much the only goal. And like a lot of that is right now, like even when you look at like traditional software, it's like fairly manual, right? Like when it comes to like investment banking and have like them jumping in and trying to figure out how to price software products. Anyways.
yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the idea of there being some liquidity or exchange level revenue stream that you can direct back to builders is super interesting, and so
Yeah.
it's definitely on my list of like I want to see this in action and like very worthwhile experiment to run at, and I think there, the upside is you could have a more sustainable pump type of mechanism that actually
Yeah.
is really focused on driving value back.
And
We shall see.
And one part of my rant that I won't dive too much into is like the one thing, and one of the reasons why we're not rushing anything is when you use Ohara today, it should work like immediately, right? Like these aren't demos, these are like real, fully deployed software being generated. And the reason why I bring this up is that like I think a lot of token launches are basically they fail because they're based off like either too long of timescales or like just undelivered promises. And even for example, like I actually despise the AI crypto meta so much because none of it is like traditional AI hasn't figured out what agents mean. Like in traditional AI, like there's no agreed upon definition of agents. I think the use of the term agents is like a pretty lazy way to not describe how a human interfaces with AI, right? And yes, okay, cool, great. Like that is literally the tweet I posted. And like when you look at like I'm not too convinced about the use cases around like AI agents and crypto just yet, right? Which is like, even like without crypto, I'm not convinced I'll give an agent my credit card to go buy something because interfaces for me to purchase something on Amazon are like fairly efficient, right? Like I might be convinced around agents kind of optimizing my yield on DeFi, or maybe as a way to abstract around like UX for wallets, but that's about it. Where I'm very convinced is that I think the best way to leverage AI and crypto is software generation to build 1,000 times more products that people will use. And these are products that like aren't being delivered on a 6-month time scale. These are products that like users should be able to see within minutes, right? And like if the person who created the app isn't delivering, someone else will. And it will all happen in real time on Ohara, right? So that is like, I think that is like what I'm the most excited about.
Well, it's interesting. It's like it's actually more like software development as content through that lens than like actual just software as content. It's like
Yes.
come along with me as I build this product out and figure out what the hell it is. Like you're gonna see it in its earliest form. This is where I'm going and continue playing with it as it develops.
Dude,
it's interesting.
I think you're gonna see people starting to live stream them generating these apps.
Right.
I think and the last thing I'll say before I shut up is like I think back in the day, creating videos was a very expensive thing that was like pretty exclusive to like Hollywood or blah blah blah, and people laughed at YouTube. But then YouTube basically said, hey, we're going to completely absorb the cost center, make it completely free, easy, and cheap. No, not even cheap, free to host and deploy video. And like the only thing that YouTube cared about was focusing what happened after the video, which is like the distribution part. And so this is my way of saying the code generation piece is like something that I view as table stakes, and we should have a state-of-the-art frontier product. But at the end of the day, I care about what happens after the product gets generated, which is, are we getting as many eyes as humanly possible on the app that you just created? And am I making it as easy as possible for people to give you feedback on your product? So even that's why you see on Ohara, like we're very opinionated. Like we're not letting people really deploy to their own domains just yet, because I want people to see the likes and the comments and the views, because 99% of people, that's what they will care about for the product, right? So we manage and host that ourselves.
Yeah, I love it. Maybe last quick question before we let you go. I'm curious, when you imagine this future of software as content, or everyone's a developer, however you want to describe it, how far away are the tools today from getting to the point of like the types of software that you think are going to be created in the future? Like, are we there? Like, do you think the product's good enough to create viral software products already, or is that 6 months out? Is that a year out?
I mean, look, like I'm biased. I think it's ready today, but also I think this is my personal take. I think the longest it will take is 12 months. And to put things into perspective, ChatGPT is only 2 years old, right? Like it has felt like 5 years, but it's only 2 years old, right? And then when you think about how many things, I think people talk about this idea of AGI, right, a lot, but like, number one, there's actually not that many things in life that we need PhD level intelligence for, right? Like there's the majority of tasks in my life, I need like ambitious high school intern level intelligence for, right? And so then and that applies even to the majority of the code that's being generated, right? And so I just think we need better tooling around it. And like, for example, like for me, I have one goal for Ohara. I want to build the best end user consumer product here, right? I think code generation is a consumer social product, right? And so I'm going to build it like that, right? I'm not going to try to appeal to technical people, right? Someone else might take another opinion, and like, truthfully, all of us are guessing. So anyways, my long answer short is 6 months.
Love it. I love short time frame windows. Way more exciting than long ones. All right, sick, man. Appreciate you jumping on. Excited to recommend anyone who's listening and is intrigued to go play with the product. I was taking it for some spins this morning. It's already very capable and fun. So excited for Peace made something in a minute on the show.
Yeah,
can't wait for tokens to get into, because that's what I like.
Yeah, awesome.
Amazing. Thanks,
all
man.
right, thanks so much, y'all. Bye.
Peace, dude.
I mean, we're obviously big believers in software as content, so I buy all of that. I've had a couple of conversations this week around app chains and around making it easy for application developers to integrate tokens into their apps, etc. And my response in that context was like, man, it just feels like it's just like a really poor fit for most people. And I feel like the opportunities that sort of exist right now in sort of app coins or brand tokens related to like Web 2 apps is kind of proving the example and popularizing the example, and then we'll get to sort of like the broader takeoff of that in the same way that we saw with I think Pump Fund meme coins. So figuring out that mechanism is going to be key, and then popularizing that mechanism is key. And so I think it's more likely to come through a more native asset type like AI generation, or a product that's been sort of built with the purpose of it, something that can be ephemeral and not really mean a whole lot. Like, so I like this through that lens. I'm not sure I'm fully on board with the economic model they're working on there, but I think it's one of those things that you kind of
you're gonna have to just fuck around with it.
Exactly.
I mean, the beauty of it is like, if you can, he seems well tuned into the importance of distribution and the consumer experience and creating fun viral apps. And I think if you can go do that and are very like convicted in tokens playing a role in the business model here, I think you can go figure that piece out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge opportunity or a valuable thing to go figure out.
I just like that they're opinionated, honestly. Like, even if the economic model isn't right, like I love that they're just like, here, try this, and then I feel like they will form another opinion, probably just as hard and fast. If it's,
I think they're not. I would say they're not opinionated enough here. And that, but through the same lens that you're just talking about, where you have to like be very opinionated about a thing and probably find that opinion through working with somebody, try to run at that a few times, and then be willing to sort of evolve your opinion at that point. There's a lot of like experimentation around how fees, like what's the business model around a token that launches for an app is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I did like I think like not charging credits or charging people to sign up is actually something I haven't really seen, and it makes a ton of sense through this lens.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're incurring costs right now while they figure the business model out, but
this piece is just slamming stuff into. Is that you typing those cookies, piece?
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, do we have topics this week?
We sure do.
Stuff happening.
Yeah, let's jump into it. So Jess, the first one I put up for this week was the one that we briefly hinted at last week, and you wanted to talk about. So maybe I'll let you introduce this one.
Yeah, this was I think Ben Thompson on Stratechery was talking about this. God, I wish I was smart like that guy. But okay, so it was sort of brought up in the context of Super Bowl happening, NBA season launching, and Derek Thompson, DKTHOMP on Twitter, just has this really great thread that's kind of exploring the nuances between his media and I guess consumption beyond even media, like willing to purchase sort of attention capture, etc., between the NBA and football. And it's really sort of an articulation of why football is just like purpose built to be a juggernaut with how they've done media rights deals, the way they structure their game, short season, all this sort of stuff. And then it shows, the counterexample of the NBA, and NFL is used as an example of something that captures so much of the value from the cultural value that's being created around NFL because of all the structural things that exist there. And then the NBA, most of that cultural value is actually leaked, if you will, from the NBA's perspective across various media, podcasts, yada yada. So there's this huge cultural impact of the NBA, but the NBA actually isn't structured as well as the NFL to capture the maximum amount of that impact. And so I think when you sort of have this massive cultural value and a challenge in actually pricing that or capturing that value, to me that just screams like token.
100%
tokens, right? And so I guess like the very hazy sort of thought that came up of this, it was just like how does tokens solve that, right? Like if you have like one asset that's globally available 24/7 that represents the belief in this thing, what might you go do to make that valuable and relevant? So I don't know. I haven't thought a whole lot deeper than that there, but
yeah, I think I've held that belief. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it is really just a smooth brain, right? If you say, if you can imagine you could take a sports team public, right? Even take crypto out of it, right? I guess there are a few that are public, so the ability to go purchase. But when you bring tokens in, they sort of live, they're not stuck in the United States, they're not stuck on specific, platforms or time zones, etc. They're composable. They're hopefully permissionless, so others can come create on top in certain ways. So I think it's one of those things where I don't know how you would get to that, but I do see a world where, and it's our core thesis, right? If you have a digital asset that represents value, whether that's equity value or cultural value or whatever, in a network of believers, I mean, let me in, coach. Let me go figure that out.
I mean, what do you think it looks like? Because I agree, but also probably like just like a meme coin for every team in the league, like isn't enough. Like, does that get you there? Do you need integrations into products? Do you need it to unlock experiences? Then we're getting into like kind of token utility land, which is still hasn't really worked.
I mean, I think there's just so many leaps of belief that you have to get to the space. But I think that I would counter with the question of like, what would it look like if the LA Lakers pulled a Trump and launched a Laker token and did it well? Right?
Yeah,
like you sort of have these moments that just shift the Overton window, and I think the step beyond that is how do you as a business go and show your support for this token, right? So like the next power move would be for the Lakers to put 50% of the revenue into buying and burning this token, or whatever. And so I think it's things like that there's no clear win here. I'm not sure it works. I don't know how you get to it, all that sort of stuff. But I think it's
I mean, I think the very obvious thing is that only a very small percentage of the cultural value of these teams is captured through like ticket sales and jersey sales and like licensing deals, right? Which is the point of this. He's like, I consume a shit ton of NBA podcasts and never watch an NBA game. So really, like the NBA is actually like subsidizing the business models of all these like podcast guys, right? And I like provide no value to the NBA. Whereas like
how much is there a lot of a difference between Trump and the Lakers in their intention of launching a token? Like I would say both those, Trump, dude, I'm on his email list with just for copywriting gems because like next level AI on that. But they're selling coins and selling mugs and selling all these sort of stuff, which is like tickets and jerseys and whatever. People are buying these things because they believe in his brand. And now you're just taking a token. Now they fucked that up. It could be so much more. Maybe they will make it so much. There's rumors that he's going to airdrop tokens to anybody who's bought stuff from him and stuff like that. So I don't think we're that far off from it. You just need some crazy person who has control and gets to make the decision to say, fuck it, we're going to go.
Yeah, I think so too. And then I think we also just need time. Like meme coins largely are a like cultural phenomenon. And I think you need time for like mainstream culture to care about it and catch up to it. And it, potentially be a status symbol within these like more mainstream communities. But if you can get to the point where, the amount of like Lakers token you hold is some flex on like the level of your fandom. And that's actually a thing that people are talking about and showing off. If there's buyback and burns, if there's like, I don't know, gated events for top holders that like the community's running, or
I think all like this whole conversation about utility and function, like clearly you will want to add something like that. Like it's just, but making that the core thing, I think is where people have kind of.
But I wouldn't bake it in. Like I wouldn't. I think for it to actually matter and do well, it wouldn't be like the Lakers doing it.
No.
It would be like the community. It's just getting like deeply integrated into fandom around these teams.
100%. I was trying to make a different point, but now I forgot it.
Oh, sorry.
So, we won't try to find it. Is it in there? No, it's not in the brain. So I guess the point I was trying to make was like we just remember this idea of being able to buy and burn or to drive value back to a digital asset is something that we weren't even talking about 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm not sure everybody's mental model has actually updated into, and in part because we don't actually know what the mental model should be updated to right now. It's just kind of like we think we'll be okay. And so people are willing to take that risk. But I think in a world where you can actually say, this is valuable and it will be more valuable because of all the things we collectively go do, I think we're just in a very different place. And then, your utility and all the other sort of stuff you can do on top of it. But that core idea, which is it is popular today and making a bunch of money. Together, we're going to make it more popular, in a couple of years and making a whole bunch more money. And we're going to see some value of that. That's how we go build crypto businesses. Chasing fundamentals at some level. And I think there's more that comes from the brand multiplier on top of it than just fundamental, but
teams competing for their or fans of teams competing for their team market cap to be higher than others, and it'd be fun, man. I hope it comes. All right, sick. Let's jump to the next one, which is Kaito. Because I think there's actually there's kind of like a bunch of stuff that kind of unraveled from this airdrop in NTG that I think are worth talking to. I think one it's actually just performed very well, so kind of managed to not go the path of many recent TGs. So I think we could potentially talk about why. I think another interesting one is just this like trend of more traditional looking companies launching tokens. And I think a lot of people, Yano is just completely missing the point here. I think they're talking about, now, these companies are putting their equity on chain and whatever. We can get into what you talk about there.
Was about?
Okay, we'll go to that. And then I think another thing we're talking about is, Jesse was kind of, cell shaming people and kind of got in the line of fire again. So we can talk about that. But let's go to the Yano thread. So basically what he was saying here is, it's about centralized companies launching tokens. And he kind of goes on to talk about, historically, there are these on-chain entities that launch tokens. If, they were decentralized, they were L1s, they were DAOs. whatever, they were building networks, and there were these off-chain entities kind of, running more traditional business models. And he's saying, what we're starting to see is things that looked more like or fall into this off-chain entity bucket launching tokens. Obviously, that's right. We are seeing that, but I think he starts talking about, if you're a company that launched it too high of a valuation and can't go get an up round, like you should go launch a token, which I just think is the complete like wrong thing to pull from this. And actually, if you really look into what Kaito's doing, like they're not tokenizing their SaaS business. They're going to build this new like attention market and attention network that is, a very adjacent opportunity. And I think because, they've built a profitable business and can clearly build and ship, like people are putting trust that they're going to go build this really interesting network. But I think the conclusion that, there's this new opportunity to put equity on chain or treat tokens as equity is just completely missing the point.
Ever since those guys rolled out their consulting company, I only read his tweets through the lens of I'm a consultant working on somebody else's behalf.
It's really what it reads like.
Yeah, I mean, this is absurd. Like you're gonna have like equity shitcoins come out of this, and they're gonna be bad. This is just pure extraction. But I think the interesting thing here though is tokens launching or companies launching tokens.
Yeah,
and this is another big shift that we've had post-Trump, where people are like, oh, all these things I was doing, setting up foundation, BVI entities, issuing tokens, closing them down, yada, yada, we're all just to try to reduce my risk in this uncertain regulatory environment. And now, and I guess alongside that, we saw through Memecoin season, people just actually care more about the token and the number go up than they care about decentralization or the tech, etc. And so, big topics of discussion last cycle, governance, are not even bubbling up to the fringes of this cycle. So I think it's a mixture of like changing expectations from consumer or token buyers and regulations, and it's kind of opening up a bit of a new design space. And so companies launching tokens, both being culturally able to do so and legally feel comfortable doing so, is a big deal.
Totally. But it's like it's companies launching tokens to go run at network opportunities, not companies launching tokens to put their equity on chain and open that up to the global
taking
audience.
their brand public. I think
or they're taking their brand public.
Are interesting as well.
Totally.
We're not executed super well. So like those are the interesting things. So networks are a new type of company, yes, and tokens represent ownership in networks. Dope. Brands are valuable. Goodwill is valuable. When you take that public through a token, you have an opportunity to multiply that value. If you're building a fucking, I mean, Jelly Jelly's a shitty example because it's literally the exact type of product that is just probably not going to work really well with tokens because it didn't seem super differentiated and yada yada, right? And it's definitely not a network or whatever, but I could have done it a little bit better, I think. So
yeah,
I mean, I think this like the consumer is no longer demanding fundamental governance or control over these things is actually interesting, because there's a pretty good argument to be made that like the governance theater was a very big limitation on projects last cycle.
Yeah,
so the ability to kind of just like
push it down the road.
Yeah, I think, which is what it should be done, right? You should go build something that people actually want. There's value being exchanged there, and then that's no. And I understand there are reasons against that, and yada yada. So it's a bit of a mess. But I think the fact is, you can go launch a token in a non-decentralized way as a company, and I don't think people will care that much. And
yeah,
that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting.
The other thing on these token launches that are happening right now, they're narrative breaking in many ways, because I think up until Kaito and IP launch, we were seeing just down only on these low float, high FTV launches. Now we're seeing pretty aggressive up only. And the rumor on the street is that there's a team, and it's not a comment on any of these two teams, I have no inside information, etc. But seeing deals be done for price support on TGE through loans and or token kickbacks or etc. And so again, not saying it's these guys whatsoever, I have no idea, but it's making me question, right? So if this is the case, what we'll see is sort of like that dump get pushed out some set amount of time.
Yeah,
but I don't know, there's the fishiness. If folks were shocked about Hayden and the Solana Insider game, then maybe they'll be shocked about this. But I think
the IP chart is fishy for sure. But yeah, no, barely even know those teams. So, but I think
right? It's just like it's very plausible, and especially seeing such an aggressive shift to and yeah, I don't know.
I was shocked at how this performed after launch, knowing. I mean, they actually adjusted the airdrop quite a bit. I think they airdropped less than people were guessing that they would airdrop. I think they smoothed the distribution out quite a bit in their conversion of like yaps to airdrop. It wasn't just 1-to-1, so they didn't just like heavily load these people who were inevitably going to dump. But yeah, I'm surprised. I was surprised to see like they opened at I think $1 billion valuation, maybe went down to 800, and now it's kind of way back up. So. I mean, the reality is, and we've talked about this a lot, right? That like you need to set up the conditions for your token price to go up after TGE, and I think obviously the right way to do that is, launch it a low FTV and build something really interesting that people actually want to buy into and believe in. And I guess there's another way to do that, and that's just play weird backdoor games.
Well, the prize is so big, right? And it's why most big VCs are out there recommending the low float high FTP token launch, because even if it is down 80% from your $6 billion launch, you still have a multi-billion-dollar network that you can give and tokens that you can give away to go do things with. So it makes sense logically. It's just, but it's manipulation at the end of the day. It's manipulating retail holders. And it's trash.
It's trash. All right, let's talk Jesse real quick. So Peace, can you pull that post up? So I think Farouk,
such a lightning rod for a nice guy. He's
great. I think he was saying it was like 4 a.m. and he was just shooting from the hip, I think, as he often does. But so Farouk, Peace, if you scroll up, I think it was a pretty innocent post too. It was just whatever, celebrating his Kaito airdrop and dumping it as many are expected to do. And Jesse kind of pushed back, saying that this is actually a pretty shitty thing to do. Like, you should be. This is a gift, and you should lean in and contribute to the network. And he just got a ton of flack from this. And I think, neither are in the wrong, right? I think if you pull up Hayden's tweet too, he's like, if you don't want people to sell your airdrop, like, you can drop it in a way that they can't. Like, this is an attention generation event. Giving people magic internet money and dominating the timeline for a few days is kind of what you want. Obviously, you have to design your tokenomics and stuff in a way that it doesn't, hurt the price action or hurt your chart too much. But yeah,
Barack, that's a wild statement to be making from him. But I'm literally making a post thanking the team for an airdrop as a sign of appreciation, and you are sell shaming me. Don't sell shame me. This whole thing's it's ridiculous. I
mean, he's like, this wasn't an appreciation tweet. Also,
no.
You should sell your airdrop if you want to sell your airdrop.
I think this is complex, right? So one thing, I think anybody who's built in the space and has to, and is playing with tokens, there is a large segment of token holders that are just purely into it for their short-term personal benefit. And no judgment on that. But when that comes to maybe making those folks often like to make demands of founders. I got tagged in a post today about the Dream Coins, and I guess they had said we're going to do an airdrop back in November and then stop doing it. And so apparently I need to have a comment on how these fraudsters are, and it's just like over the top ridiculous, right? So I think that's sort of like the background is just like everybody thinks they have a right to your time, that you work for them and give me as much free money as possible. So it's a really challenging, especially when you put that next to somebody who's been grinding on something for years, going through it. And so like the landscape is set up for challenges there. And on the flip side, yeah, airdrop farmers are you're playing that game with airdrop farmers if you're dropping an airdrop, and so you have to kind of step into it. And it would be ideal if people want to hold on to tokens, but the follow on to that is we're not giving the people a good reason to buy and hold tokens right now.
No, everything's
launching super high. So for the last 3 months, the smartest move for you to do as a long-term believer in a community that's just giving you a bunch of tokens for holding a JPEG is to dump it because it has dropped 50, 60, 70%.
Yeah, sell on day one, buy on day 30
5.
if you still believe.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Day 5. Yeah.
So
what's the like? Are airdrops just cooked? Like, should teams continue airdropping, or what's your thinking on that?
I mean, I think the strongest tokens are ones that people buy. The strongest token networks are the ones that people buy into, and so I think that should really be the focus. And then I think airdrops, yeah, I mean, they've been on a diminishing return for the last little while, and I think they're definitely not going away. Like, if people want to treat them as a good media moment, wonderful. And airdrops are, I think you shouldn't just look at them as marketing opportunities. You're trying to bring a liquid market for your token, and so that is one of the tools that exist there. But I think we will ultimately get to a place where we're sort of like doing the math on the value contributed and the rewards that come out, and so I think it will just be a lot more like I do things and I consistently get rewarded for it, and it's a lot less, but it's on aggregate valuable. So, but I think the biggest shift in my thinking is just like, how do you create opportunities for people to purchase on your journey?
I think Mega ETH is doing that in an interesting way, right? Echo Round, then kind of giving a broader community the right to buy, this NFT that has some supply allocation. So those people bought in. Potentially, you're more inclined to hold after they're up at 2x instead of just getting a $5,000 airdrop to their wallet.
The strongest is for there just to be like early liquid markets that you're building into, rather.
Agreed.
It's kind of tough because even those echo rounds are like, locked for some period of time, and they're later stage rounds. But even those later stage rounds for some of these bigger, like 100 million, 200 million for an L2 that's going to trade up. So yeah, I don't know, but I do think like if you put airdrop versus somebody buying a token, you're likely to have higher conviction on somebody buying. I don't know how much higher, but you just setting a slightly higher floor, I guess, is the intention. And big juicy airdrop is maybe a starting point of that, but not sufficient. If you want to shame people. If you want to buy shame people. If you want to just say nothing on the internet, don't say anything. If you want to say a lot of things on the internet, go say something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
buying is objectively fucking cool.
You gonna go buy Ye's new token?
No, too much insider trading.
That's what I'm saying. So I would judge you. I mean, not. I would.
But
you would do it in an ironic way, maybe, and so I would search for that. But
no, I don't know yet.
This puppet talking about buying the Ye ticker is
buying, dude. It's
I mean, rumor is he's holding 70% of this, or he gets 70% of the supply, which is a dangerous place for that much supply.
No, not with the way he leverages Twitter.
I agree, dude. Like, he would give a bunch of that to. I don't know. Like, he's gonna get.
You think he's gonna be a good community member?
No, I could do without it. I would just to finish up this topic. I just think people showing a little bit of kindness and appreciation, all around, right? So like for people who are farming airdrops, stoked that you're here. Would love to convert you into a community member. You got to sell, do your thing, but like pay attention, come back. We're on a big journey together. If you're a developer or you're one of those explorers, people are working really fucking hard trying to make something big. And I think that maybe the challenging part I have around all these sort of topics are just how often the loudest are the people who've done the least.
Yeah. I mean, that was really the core of Jesse's point. It's like, can we just celebrate? And in this tweet, he was like, I kind of regret getting involved because it made this thing about me and about this kind of cell shaming instead of just celebrating the fact that this team's been building for 3 years, has clearly built something valuable. Yeah. I think this, like the Yap product, was interesting, whether you like incentivized yapping or not. And yeah, I think they're doing something new and interesting. They're creating a new market, right? Who knows what InfoFi actually is, but they're clearly building in a category that no one else is. This is, we need more kind of insight driven, not copycat builders in crypto, and they're some of them. So. All right, let's jump to the next one. So the next one is just Okay, yeah, we can go to this one. Cool. So this is about Dream Chain, which you briefly mentioned. So Dreamcoins, which originally was basically a prompt-based token launcher built on top of WoW, which was Zora's Memecoin launchpad that they launched. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea how long that was. 4 months? 6 months? 2 months? Something like that. And yeah, so this week they announced a new agent-only, or Dream Chain, which is an agent-only L3 that basically only approved and verified agent wallets are able to transact on. So that's kind of, weird to begin with. I think they also have a cool model where holders of Dream are actually able to like stake into the sequencer and earn a share of fees. I think, we've spoken a bunch of times how our like questions around, tens of cents, or questions around how valuable sequencer fees actually are, because, unless you have like an absurd amount of volume, they're very low. But I don't know. I think this idea of an agent only chain is like conceptually interesting, but I really wonder what the path is to getting a meaningful number of transactions happening here. Like, I don't know what they're going to go do next to try to make that happen.
So I have a bag, which I need to disclose before we talk about this. Yes, so I have a bag. So I love the price action this has happened, though. I think the thing's still trading around $2.5 million, which is like, imagine this like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, like we'd be talking a very different world. But I mean, it's a very competent team, well-known, sort of out of a very well-known group, and they've been cooking on this. And I think the idea of doing your own chain, we're really intrigued by the idea of community ownership for your own chain, and like maybe the optimizations and customizations and the cost reductions if you have certain scale transactions that you can get from. I think they're using the meta-based or Syndicate's new product here. So I think that's great. I think the big question is like why, and we continue to have the question of like what is our why here? And I think for a long time having our own chain, there's probably some technical reason to do it, but a big part of it was token valuation. People like chains, infrastructure, rock and roll. I think we've been thinking that era is over, or at least it's not seen as valuable anymore. And I think launches like this kind of prove that out. But I think if we look at like agent platforms or networks, to me it feels very natural that it would be its own sort of set of infrastructure, and the way that you sort of formalize this network is through collective ownership of a chain and a sequencer. So I think with our guest earlier today, I think the question really is like, what magic are you going to go do for me here, dear agents? But maybe in reading this post, it feels more like this is actually closer to Cognico and Scott Belsky's ideas here than it is to kind of what, say, AI16Z or whatever are trying to go do.
I mean, I think the challenge, like, it seems like they're setting themselves up though to be like a generalized agent only chain, which just seems like a path to nowhere.
I have no idea what they're actually doing.
I mean, I imagine they're probably going to go launch some interesting things on there. I hope. Actually,
there was a chain a while back. It was like ChaosNet or something like that. It was like a place for people to battle test their apps.
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. It was something where it was like all an AI sim chain, and it was some place where you could deploy your app, and it would just they would see what would happen on volume, or if it could be hacked by agents or whatever.
Yeah, it was a simulator. I don't remember what it's called. I mean, there's a bunch of tools.
The challenge is like, like the first thing I would imagine I would want to go build is like, a launch pad where only agents can deploy, but then you can't even have people buying. So like it purely needs to be this like enclosed agent to agent environment. And like, is there like, what are you gonna go build there?
No, I think I
like it. It's like the HOV lane on the highway. Like,
I mean, it would really need to be the HOV lane due to all like the friction that would be put in place by having your own chain. And I think there's been a bunch of great conversations sort of around the, like, if an agent was truly autonomous and doing its thing, would it really choose to launch and do everything on its own chain in an inferior way, or is it just going to go find like the cheapest, biggest opportunity out there? Period. Right.
It's going to go find liquidity. Yeah,
exactly. So, I don't know. Again, I'm a bag holder, so let's go. But I don't know what it is. I think it's interesting. As I said to you yesterday, I think this idea of, okay, now we have this, the sequencer is sort of decentralized, it can be owned by a community. What interesting things might you do around that? And I don't know, but I think it's an interesting prompt, and I think these guys have some thoughts on it. So
yeah, Peace, do you want to feed us a lightning round before we jump off?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
this is probably
a Twitter search.
I saw this amazing graphic of like how these people in Africa this is producing really fucked results. Basically they hide
oh yeah, they give them salt.
They hide seeds in this little thing. The monkey grabs it. Yeah, they give him salt, and then the monkeys go get water. So that was my agent chain analogy. I don't know.
I think you should workshop that for next week because there's something there.
There's definitely
the
something
video's
there.
great. They tie the poor monkey up for a while, making it very, very, very thirsty, and then let it go, and then it runs to water.
It's a horrible thing to do to your agent.
Yeah. I mean, this tweet was great. So I think you probably all know that ByBit had a hack earlier today, and like literally within minutes of it happening, people flipped bullish for this reason. Like no lie, like that was the like common narrative or sentiment on Twitter. It was like, oh, this is bullish. They're gonna have to buy all this back.
Asset issuance and transactions, baby.
Good God.
Printing money.
I mean, that's what's amazing is they're sitting on $1.5 billion and they're like, oh, that's chill. It sucks, but that's chill. We're okay.
Good God, man.
Poor Frank, man. Frank is getting absolutely roasted right now.
Yeah, I feel bad for those lads. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I guess they're all caught up in all that
stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Anything big happening next week that we want to let people know about?
I don't know. If you're going to Denver, I guess have fun.
Yes. Send us pictures to make us FOMO, because I'm not sure our default will be FOMO, but I think it's going to be really good. There's a lot of things being launched there. A lot of people going, so it should be good. Cool. All right. Back next week, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time, where we talk about whatever weird shit has been happening on the internet in the consumer crypto world.
Yep.
Guaranteed there will be something, and we shall see what it is.
Zora just announced their new protocol too, so you should go check that out.
Coins.
Yep. Bringing coins back, I see. Well, I guess I could go click around and
coins are back.
Yeah,
everything. It goes to liquidity pool instantly on creation of any content now, instead of the kind of hybrid model they had before.
It's kind of what we were saying last week, right?
It's kind of what we were saying last week. Yeah.
Coins are only for fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out today. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Internet Explorers.